Kyler Murray are reportedly in a heated clash with J.J. McCarthy, as the quarterback battle in Minnesota turns ugly. Tension inside the Minnesota Vikings spiked after both QBs gave conflicting media statements about their locker room dynamic during voluntary workouts. So let's get into exactly how this Kyler Murray and J.J. McCarthy situation is playing out, and who is coming out on top. Both Murray and McCarthy spoke to reporters during Minnesota's OTA practice session on May 27. The 28-year-old Murray stated that the relationship between the two was great and implied he was hoping to be a resource and mentor for the 2024 first-round pick. That sounds cordial enough on the surface, but then the other guy opened his mouth. Meanwhile, McCarthy took a bit of a different tone. Despite insisting there was no awkwardness between the two signal callers, it's just like two guys in a classroom, McCarthy told reporters. He sits on one side, I sit on the other side, and it's the coach's responsibility to teach us and coach us. It's just like the same feeling when you're in high school, and there's another person on the other side of the room. He added after a follow-up question, that's just kind of how it is. I wouldn't say there's any awkwardness. Let that sink in. J.J. McCarthy, a man competing for the most visible position on an NFL roster, just used a high school classroom analogy to describe his relationship with Kyler Murray. Not teammates, not colleagues, two kids sitting on opposite sides of a room. Former Dallas Cowboys quarterback Ben DiNucci saw straight through McCarthy's comments as he picked up on an antagonistic tone. JJ, this is the NFL brother, he wrote on X. This type of attitude doesn't fly at the QB position. You have too many people watching how you talk, act. And then there was Kyler Murray's response to the exact same questions. The contrast was striking. Our relationship has been great, he said. Obviously, I know he's a younger guy. So anyway, I feel like I can help him. You know, I've played 7 years now, going on 8, so I'm considered a veteran, even though I don't see myself as that. Give him any knowledge that he needs. Again, we're both competitors, and I know we both want what's best for the team. That is the sound of two men at very different points in their careers, handling the same situation in completely different ways. Murray is composed, even magnanimous. McCarthy is simmering. And if you understand how both of these men got to this moment, you understand exactly why the Minnesota Vikings are letting J.J. McCarthy and Kyler Murray battle for their starting quarterback job in 2026. Murray is the favorite to win the job. J.J. McCarthy went into the 2025 offseason as the Vikings' unquestioned starter. He went into this offseason competing with Kyler Murray for the starting job. That shift from unquestioned starter to underdog in the span of a single season is exactly what lit the fuse on everything you're seeing unfold in Minnesota right now. The combination of skills and experience Kyler Murray carried with him to the Minnesota Vikings has made him their presumptive starting quarterback this upcoming season, even if the coaching staff declared an open competition for the job with J.J. McCarthy in his first public comments since Murray was cut by the starting over Arizona Cardinals and signed with the eager-to-contend Vikings. McCarthy sounded as though he understood the situation, but did not necessarily appreciate it. And the fact that this tension is already spilling into press conferences before a single snap of the regular season has been played tells you everything about the powder keg sitting inside the Vikings quarterback room right now. To understand why McCarthy is this rattled, you have to understand the weight of what he carried into 2025 and what he left it with. Without a doubt, Minnesota Vikings quarterback J.J. McCarthy was the team's biggest disappointment of the 2025 season. Expectations and excitement were through the roof as he was returning to the Vikings after missing his entire rookie season with an injury. Minnesota head coach Kevin O'Connell deemed him the franchise quarterback. At the same time, he announced that he'd miss his rookie year. That was what everyone was expecting to see from McCarthy in 2025, a caliber of play that was worthy of a true franchise NFL quarterback. But what we got was something far different. The 2024 first-round pick posted a 6-4 record across 10 starts, but completed just 57.6% of his passes for 1,623 yards, 11 touchdowns and 12 interceptions, while battling a high ankle sprain, a concussion, and a broken hand. Numbers like that would make any front office nervous. But the injury list is what makes the situation genuinely alarming. All 4 of McCarthy's NFL injuries, a torn meniscus in his right knee, a high right ankle sprain, a concussion, and the fractured hand, came as he tried to extend plays beyond their original design. He took an average of 10 hits per game this season, 10th most among the 58 quarterbacks who have made at least one start. In other words, his physical style of play is the very thing getting him hurt. And that's not a minor mechanical tweak. That's a deeply ingrained part of how he processes the game. McCarthy looked like an inexperienced quarterback, not having control of the huddle and holding onto the ball too long, resulting in unnecessary sacks. His accuracy was also poor, missing wide-open receivers or throwing it too hard on the passes that were on point. McCarthy's mechanics were a mess, with a pitcher's like wind-up and a big leg kick. The statistical indictment goes even deeper than the eye test. McCarthy finished number 35 in accuracy. No. 36 in third down conversion rate. No. 35 in EPA pass. No. 35 in completion rate. No. 36 in sack plus interception rate. No. 35 in passer rating. And no, 35 in TD-INT ratio. Out of 36 quarterbacks, bottom of the barrel, almost every metric that matters at the quarterback position, McCarthy was at or near last in the entire NFL. Entering Week 18, McCarthy's QBR of 33.9 ranked 46th out of 58 quarterbacks who had made at least one start. He had only 2 games with more than 200 passing yards. There were moments of brilliance, though, flickers that kept the faith alive. McCarthy won his final 4 starts of the 2025 NFL season and completed 64.3% of his passes for 703 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions over that span with a 104 passer rating. That late season run was the lifeline he clung to, the evidence he presented to a front office that was already losing confidence. But the Vikings had seen enough of the full picture. McCarthy's performance, when he wasn't missing 7 games because of 3 separate injuries, was at times so concerning that it was reasonable to suggest he should be replaced after 1 season. The more likely outcome was the Vikings having a renewed interest in adding a starting caliber veteran to pair and possibly compete with McCarthy. According to league sources, a central tenet of Minnesota's 2025 offseason philosophy was to build a roster that could win as the young QB developed. Injuries, particularly on the offensive line, kept the plan from going into full effect and created a situation that would have challenged veteran QBs. Still, that rationale only goes so far when a franchise quarterback is finishing near the bottom of every meaningful statistical category and can't make it through a full season healthy. O'Connell had supported McCarthy throughout his injury-plagued campaign, but heading into the offseason, the quarterback position would be under the spotlight in Minnesota. At the very least, the Vikings needed legitimate competition and insurance if McCarthy's injuries persisted, so the organization made its move, and the player they called was a man who had his own story to tell. Kyler Murray's path to Minnesota is its own tale of unraveling. A career that once gleamed with Pro Bowl selections and franchise quarterback money, crumbling under the weight of injuries, a fractured relationship with an entire organization, and one of the most complicated contract situations in recent NFL history. Murray was selected first overall by the Arizona Cardinals in the 2019 NFL Draft. In his first season, Murray was named NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year after setting several Cardinals franchise rookie quarterback records. He received consecutive Pro Bowl selections during his next 2 seasons, along with leading the Cardinals to the playoffs in 2021, their first appearance since 2015. That was the version of Kyler Murray that made Arizona open the vault. On July 21, 2022, Murray signed a 5-year, $230.5 million contract extension to stay with the Cardinals, with $160 million being guaranteed. That contract was supposed to lock in the face of the franchise for the next half-decade. Instead, it became a financial anchor that slowly dragged everyone down. The 2022 season went sideways. A torn ACL ended it early. The 2023 season was a partial return from injury. By 2025, the Cardinals were a franchise in the middle of a rebuild, and Kyler Murray was increasingly a mismatch for the direction they were heading. Tempe, Arez. Now that Kyler Murray's immediate future with the Arizona Cardinals had been settled, with coach Jonathan Gannon's announcement that Murray wouldn't return for the rest of the 2025 season because of a lingering foot injury, the focus turned to his long-term future with the organization. Murray played just 5 games for the Arizona Cardinals before he was sidelined by a foot injury. 5 games. A franchise quarterback who was supposed to lead a team through a rebuild managed less than a full month of action before the season was effectively over for him. Arizona's offense averaged 22 points since Week 6, compared to 18-8 for the first 5 contests of the season with Murray. With Brissett at quarterback, the Cardinals averaged 372 yards overall and 284 passing. That was almost 100 more yards per game than when Murray was at quarterback. With Murray during the first 5 games, Arizona averaged 288 yards and 172 passing yards. That was the final straw. On March 11, 2026, Murray was released by the Cardinals after 7 seasons. For the first time in 8 seasons, the Arizona Cardinals would move into a season without Kyler Murray as their franchise quarterback. The financial mechanics of that separation were extraordinary. Yes, $54.7 million is a lot of money to pay someone not on your football team. No matter how you slice it, his contract largely prevented him from being traded, which would have been preferred for the Cardinals, as they would have only taken on $17.9 million in dead cap, with $34.7 million in cap savings this offseason. Over the cap highlighted Murray's contract has offset language in it, which could see him sign for minimal money elsewhere in free agency. Murray's guarantee is subject to offsets, so it is likely that he will sign a contract for the veteran's minimum and try to compete for a job, and that is precisely what happened. On March 12, 2026, Murray signed a 1-year contract with the Minnesota Vikings, worth the veteran's minimum salary. The Vikings were able to sign Murray for just $1.3 million this spring, because the Cardinals are paying out the rest of his $36.8 million salary for next season. Think about that for a moment. A man who was earning north of $46 million per year in Arizona just signed a deal worth $1.3 million, because his former team is still paying him the rest of what was owed. For the Vikings, this was an almost absurdly low-risk transaction. It was an addition that was largely without risk and offered the potential for significant upside. If Murray could connect with coach Kevin O'Connell and get back on the franchise quarterback track, even with all of the assets the Vikings offer, from top-notch facilities to a quarterback-friendly head coach in Kevin O'Connell to star wide receiver Justin Jefferson, Murray likely wouldn't have picked Minnesota on a 1-year minimum salary contract if he didn't think he'd be the starter. That confidence tells you everything about Murray's mentality walking through the doors. He isn't here to be a mentor. He is here to win a job. My confidence is unshakable. That's how I feel about myself. Murray said, regardless of what happens day to day, I know the next day I'm coming out here giving my best effort. Part 4. The room is already fracturing. The quarterback room dynamic is one thing, but what happens when the loudest voice on the offense, arguably the best receiver in the game, starts putting his cards on the table? Justin Jefferson did not wait long to make his feelings known. Just competition for real, Jefferson said when asked what he wanted to see from Murray and McCarthy. Just to see who's going to be that last man standing. Jefferson is entirely correct in identifying the quarterback position as a missing piece in Minnesota, where the Vikings managed to finish with 9 wins, despite virtually zero consistency at the position. Jefferson hasn't shied from this fact either, admitting he believes the Vikings would have fared better in 2025 had Sam Darnold remained with the team instead of leaving for Seattle, and acknowledging the onus was on McCarthy to improve and command the starting job. That is a veteran receiver essentially saying, on record, that the first-round pick they went all in on cost them a season. That's not a throwaway comment. That is a loaded statement from a man who is watching his prime years pass by. Without a Super Bowl, the Vikings missed the playoffs by a single play last season. Jefferson has been to the playoffs twice as a professional, but hasn't won a postseason game. For JJ, for somebody to enter that room with Murray's type of ability, that type of talent, he's got to step it up a little bit. Jefferson said, it's good for him to feel that type of pressure and to really lock in a little bit and say, it's either now or I'm going to take that back seat again. That is not a teammate vouching for JJ McCarthy. That is a superstar receiver issuing a veiled ultimatum, one that the entire NFL heard loud and clear. Jefferson did make a point to express enthusiasm about what Murray specifically brings. There's a difference from somebody that's playing an Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady type quarterback, from playing Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson. Jefferson explained, the subtext of that comparison, grouping Murray with Lamar Jackson, is revealing. Jefferson is already envisioning what a Murray-led offense could unlock for him as a receiver, and the excitement is impossible to conceal. Jefferson told media members he's looking for those big, exciting plays from Murray, as well as the quickness and arm speed he's demonstrated over his career. He acknowledged McCarthy has to step it up a bit, but believes it's a positive situation for the youngster to feel a little pressure and lock in at a new level. And there's another layer to Jefferson's stake in this competition. As ESPN's Dan Graziano noted, Murray's contract prohibits the Vikings from retaining the signal caller's rights via the franchise tag next offseason. That could be a concern for Jefferson, who would like for Minnesota to have a long-term QB1 on the roster. It definitely would be great to have a quarterback, the same quarterback for these next couple years going down the line. Jefferson added, "But we already know that's something that's very difficult to do in this league. But for sure, to keep on that quarterback for these next couple years and build that relationship and create that spark. That's definitely the plan." What Jefferson is describing is the long game. He does not want another situation where a new quarterback walks in every season, and the entire offense has to recalibrate from scratch. The irony, of course, is that Murray's current deal, a one-year minimum contract, practically guarantees that exact scenario if McCarthy doesn't win the job. Kyler Murray is here for 1 year. He cannot be franchise tagged. If he wins the job, plays well, and leaves in free agency next spring, the Vikings are right back at square one. And beyond Jefferson, Dan Orlovsky, former NFL quarterback and ESPN analyst, weighed in on the Pat McAfee show with a pointed assessment aimed directly at McCarthy. "I think this is an uphill battle for JJ McCarthy on and off the field." He said Orlovsky also spoke on a quote McCarthy recently gave, in which he insinuated that he and Murray have not been talking much during OTAs, and instead view things more as a competition. "I don't think this answer is helping him because you're on the same team at the end of the day," said Orlovsky. Three separate voices, DiNucci, Jefferson, Orlovsky, all pointing the same direction. The way McCarthy is carrying himself through this situation is drawing criticism from every angle. And Kyler Murray, by simply staying composed, is winning the off-field portion of this battle without even trying. Part 5, what happens next and what it all means. Here is where this situation becomes more than just locker room drama, because the stakes attached to who wins this quarterback competition carry franchise-altering consequences for the Minnesota Vikings. NFL Network's Tom Pelissero spoke at length about the Vikings quarterback room, saying they're not just gonna punt up on him, McCarthy. "If this were just Kyler's job, and JJ is competing with Carson Wentz to be the 2, you would have traded JJ. You would have gotten what you could get for him already. The longer you wait to trade a guy like JJ McCarthy, the less his value is. Other teams trade for untapped potential. So the clues, per Pelissero, point to McCarthy having a real chance to dethrone Murray as the top dog. That is a critical piece of context that reframes everything. The Vikings have not given up on JJ McCarthy. If they had, he would already be traded. The fact that he is still on the roster, still competing, means this is a genuine open competition, not a formality designed to ease a handoff to Kyler Murray. JJ McCarthy says he was told the quarterback battle between himself and Kyler Murray will be a true competition this offseason. Per Fox 9's Ahmad Hicks, ESPN's Dan Graziano reported earlier this month that people I've talked to who are close to this situation insist that the Vikings haven't given up on McCarthy, despite signing Murray. But haven't given up on is very different from believe in, and the numbers from 2025 create an almost impossible standard for McCarthy to overcome in the court of public opinion. Should a QB beef develop within the Vikings locker room, the team could implode rapidly. Successful franchises need unity, and McCarthy cannot threaten the team's cohesiveness with his own bitterness. Quarterback JJ McCarthy said Wednesday the Minnesota Vikings have told him it will be a true competition between him and Kyler Murray for the starting job. Both QBs spoke to the media this week as the Vikings began organized team activities, the first real chance for the team to get on the field together in the offseason. McCarthy's demeanor indicated he's less than enthused with the signing of Murray, though he said since the move was out of his control, any disparagement would be like being disappointed if the rain fell. That is a strikingly self-aware quote, and perhaps the most revealing thing McCarthy has said through all of this. He knows this was happening regardless of anything he did. He knows the organization made a decision based on what they saw in 2025. He's accepted it, but acceptance and peace are not the same thing. And his body language, the cool classroom metaphors, the clipped responses, the quiet edge tells a story his words are trying to suppress. Murray, on the other hand, is threading a very specific needle. He is presenting himself as a team-first veteran, while simultaneously making it impossible to ignore how clearly superior his experience is to McCarthy's. Obviously, I know he's a younger guy, so any way I can help him. Obviously, I feel like I've played 7 years now, going on 8, so I'm considered a veteran. Even though I don't consider myself as that, I'll give him any knowledge that he needs. Murray said, he's always communicating, asking questions, stuff like that. So, it's been good every single time Murray mentions his 7 years of experience. In the context of helping McCarthy, he is, whether intentionally or not, reminding the room, the media, the coaching staff, and the fan base of the gap between them. Murray also gave praise to defensive coordinator Brian Flores. I'm glad to be on his side now. And head coach Kevin O'Connell. He could teach somebody that doesn't even know football how to play the position of quarterback. I believe. Murray said, I'm just excited to be in the room with him and learn from him. If McCarthy's up and mostly down rookie season didn't prove it, the Murray signing leaves little doubt that he's on the ropes. In the struggle for the starting job, Murray is charming the coaching staff. McCarthy is bristling at the question, and every interaction in that quarterback room this summer is going to be watched with the intensity of a championship game by the coaches, by the players, and by a fan base desperate for a franchise quarterback after years of quarterback instability. Adding Murray in 2026 symbolizes a change in philosophy. It's the best of both worlds between Murray and McCarthy. One stable QB1 is more likely to emerge. It's not McCarthy or bust in 2026, as it was in 2025. The verdict on whether this is truly beef depends on your definition. Murray is not beefing, he is professionally outmaneuvering a younger opponent through composure and carefully worded magnanimity. McCarthy is the one visibly frustrated, issuing classroom metaphors that reveal more than they conceal. But the tension is absolutely real, the stakes are enormous, and the personalities involved. A former No. 1 overall pick clawing to reclaim relevance, and a former number 10 overall pick refusing to surrender the job he was promised, are more than capable of turning a quarterback competition into the most combustible storyline of the 2026 NFL season. There's still plenty of time left before the 2026 campaign, and this storyline might just become one of the biggest as we ramp up toward the season.